Alright, so welcome back to Introduction to Unreal, and in the previous video we built up our basic scene in Houdini, and now we get to the fun stuff, which is how to set it up in Unreal. Okay, so when you open up Unreal, you'll get this Unreal project browser window, okay, which is like you can create a new project or start with a blank one. So we'll start with a blank one. Okay, so I'm going to click on Games and click on Next, and we just want a blank scene. Okay, so just click Next again. The only thing you want is you want to turn on ray tracing. Okay, so make sure you turn on ray tracing. Let's call this form 3 because I have a form 1 and 2 already. Okay, so let's take this and hit create project, and it will create a new project for you. Alright, so once Unreal opens up, you'll be greeted with a simple scene like this. Now the basic interface is pretty simple. You have your viewport, you have a toolbar on top which gives you a bunch of options. So you can play the game that you're building, you can add a cinematic which we will go through, and then you have other settings. You have modes, so you have your default mode, you have a landscape mode, a foliage mode. Okay, so again, not important for what we are doing. Then you have this window for placing actors. An actor is an object. Okay, so you have like a variety of objects, like ready-made objects here that you can add. You have your content browser, and this is also like your import window. So everything you import is shown up over here. Then you have the basic outliner, which shows you everything you have in your scene. And then if you select anything, you see the parameters for it down here. Okay, so this is pretty, simple and straightforward. The first thing we want to do is we want to do two things. Okay, first of all, we want to create a new level, which is like a new scene. So I want it completely blank. Okay, so I'm going to right click here and you can click new level, and we'll call it form. Okay, and let's just save this, and I can double click and we'll open up like a completely blank scene. Okay, so you can have multiple levels. So technically one project can have like as many levels as you want, and each level you can think of it as a new scene. So this is done. The second thing we want is I want to light up my scene primarily with an HDR, but that is not activated by default. Okay, so you have to go in and activate it. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to come to edit, click on plugins, then come to the built-in and type in HDR. So you'll find something called HDR backdrop. Click on enable, and you'll have to restart Unreal. So just hit restart. Okay, so once you've restarted, it will come back to your basic thing. But now if you come into place actors and we type in HDR, you'll find HDR backdrop. So just double click on form and we're here. Okay, so there's nothing in here except your basic level that is being shown. So the first thing we want to do is we want to import our geometry in here. So you can right click, you can import from here, or you can right click and you can say import to game. Like either ways is fine. You can also just drag and drop from the Explorer. So, but we'll just import it from here. So right click and we'll say import to game. And this is what we have. So we have the toy form and we have base one. But we'll import them separately because one of them is like an Alembic, the other one is just a static object. So I'll just pick in base one, and the default scale is supposed to be like 100. Okay, like I was checking up on some forums, and one of the forums said that for Houdini to Unreal, your default scale should be like 100. So we'll just take this and we'll make it 100. And the other thing is that the rotation in X should be 90. Okay, that is very important. Everything else is fine. Like we don't need to do anything else. Just click import, and this will import your base, and it generates like a default material for it, which doesn't really matter. Okay, the next thing is we want to import the Alembic. So click here and say, toy form. This was the one that we made. So let's open it, and need to change the import type to geometry cache. And then we want to adjust the scaling of this. So just drag down, come into scaling. So this will be 100, 100 minus 100 and 100. And then rotation in X will be 90. So just hit import and it should do its job. Okay, so we've got our toy in here and we have the base, and let's just import it into our scene. So what you want to do is we'll just take the base and the toy, like control click, and just drag drop both of them in there. Okay. And you can alt click and sort of navigate. So see, they're both over there. We'll have to readjust the location. So we'll do 0, 0, 0 for all of them. Okay, and then we just want to light it up as quickly as possible. So I'll just type in an HDR over here. So you'll get HDR backdrop and just drag drop, and that's it. Now it's flickering because it sort of is intersecting with it. So we'll do 0, 0, and we'll in Z, in Unreal Z is up. We'll make it -1. Yeah, there you go. So it just immediately lights up using this HDR. Okay. Now I just want to make a few adjustments. I'll select the base and push it back. I'll select the toy and just move it up a little. And I'll also scale it. So you can lock the uniform scale over there. I'll make it about 3. So it's slightly big. Okay. Okay. And then we'll alt and right click to sort of zoom in, zoom out. Middle click is pan and left is orbit. And F is like focus on a specific object. Okay, so I'll just take this and push it back a little further. But I'm going to scale up the base as well. Okay, and then if you just want to quickly preview this, you can click on the play button. So come over here and press play, and it will show you the animation that we have just imported. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Like, it's as simple as that. Okay, I'll just move it up a little more, and there you go. So that's the animation that we imported. So I'll stop it. It'll come out again. All right. So now in order to render this, we need two things. We need a camera and we need what's called as a sequencer. So a sequence is sort of like your timeline. Okay. So because this is a game, you can't really you either try to record the game, but if you want like a cut scene, you need a proper timeline. So you can, set things according to that timeline, which is primarily what we want. So in order to do that, you have something on top here called cinematics. Okay, and you'll find something called level sequence and master sequence. So a level sequence is kind of like one shot, okay, which is one camera and a set of animations. And the master sequence is where you can take in multiple level sequences and build like a full scene. Okay, so if you have a scene where you want to have 3 separate camera angles and a mixture of animation, then each level sequence has like a specific animation and a camera movement. And then the master sequence, you can edit everything together. Okay, we're not going to do the master sequence right now. We'll do it towards the end. But for now, because I just want to go through the basic process, we'll use something called as a level sequence. So I'll add level sequence, need to give it a name. So we'll call it shot 1, not shit 1. Okay, shot 1. And we'll click on save. And so it will create something called a shot 1. And it generates a timeline, okay, which is pretty familiar. Like if you look at the interface, it's nothing complicated. Okay, so the first thing we want is, we want it from 0 to 240. Okay, so this should be 0 to 240. And this is, how much you're viewing it. So I want to view the full thing. So we'll go from 0 to 240. Okay. The next thing we want to do is we want to add a camera. Okay, so you can just click here and it'll say create new camera. So click on that and it'll just create a camera for you. So it creates this thing called the Cine Camera Actor, and you'll see that it's added like this. You can see a preview of your timeline. Now, the problem is if we drag through this, nothing is playing. So we need to firstly take care of that. But let's also just navigate through this. So what it does is once you add the camera, it will lock it to the viewport. So you can do all your alt, right click, left click, and sort of just move through it. So I'll just zoom out till it fills the whole scene. I won't go through the parameters of the camera right now. We'll go through it again because we will revisit this once again. But down here, you'll see that it's added like 3 things. It added the camera aperture, so you can sort of, control your depth of field. You have a focal length and you have the focus distance. So if I just lower it too much, see, so you're out of focus now and you can focus on to the object. I'll increase this to around like 6 or 7. and we can just focus on it. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so now this is done. You have your camera in here, but if you drag through it, nothing is playing back because we need to add the geometry cache to our timeline. Okay, so what you want to do is you take the form, the toy form, and drag and drop it in here. Okay, so this will drop it in, and then click on the track and you add in the geometry cache, and that's pretty much it. Now if you press play, you'll see the whole animation playing back. So down here is your play button and you can just play it back from there. And there we go, simple. All right, so now all we want to do is to render it. Okay, but before that, let's do one thing. Let's just add like a light in here. I'm not building any materials right now. We'll do that with the next class. So right now, I just want to add a light and show you how to render it. Okay, so I'm just going to come on place actor, and I'll come into lights and we'll add a rectangle light. Yeah. And if you want to break the camera, like unlock the camera from the viewport, you click here. Okay, so this will bring you back to normal. And I can just move this guy up here and you can rotate it. So the shortcuts are fairly straightforward. So E is rotate, R is scale, and W is move. Okay, so we'll just take E and you can rotate it. Okay, by default it snaps to like 10 degrees or something. Like you have your snapping up here. Okay, so the movement is snapping to a grid of 10 by 10. You can bring that down. The rotation is snapping to 5 or 10 degrees or whatever. If you don't want it to snap, turn this off so it won't snap. See, so now it's free. And then in scaling snaps to 0.25, but this is fine. And then I can come here and we can just increase the size of this a little bit and increase the intensity. And you can also adjust like the attenuation radius. And it's saying lighting needs to be rebuilt, so we can just click on build and let it rebuild it once. But yeah, our geometry also doesn't have any material right now, so that could also be an issue. Let's do one thing. We have this default material. We'll just assign it to our toy once the lighting is done. Okay, so we'll just take the toy and you have the material over here. So we'll take default material and drop it on that. Yeah, okay, I think this is fine. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I think there's something wrong with the light. Yeah, okay, sorry. The light is pointing upwards. Okay, just take the rotation and point it down. There we go. Okay. No reason the lighting wasn't showing up. There we go. Okay, fine. Yeah, so I can just click it there. You can come back to the sequencer. If you want to lock it back again to the camera, click here. Lock viewport to camera cuts and see, this will lock it back. And yeah, there you go. So you can just play through this. And this is fine. Okay, and then lastly, I just want to render this, without anything else. So I can just click here. That's the render button. Now there are more steps to do, but I just wanted to go through like a very, very basic thing. The other steps will do it as I go along through the series. So because we haven't built materials, we haven't done any kind of color grading on this. So there are things that need to be done. But for now, I'll just, we'll do the absolute basic stuff. So I'll click here. I'll click on render this movie to a video. And pretty straightforward. You have your image output format. I'll keep this to, let's do PNG. And I'll do 1280 720 for now. Doesn't matter. Okay. It'll be saved to, it'll make a folder called saved video capture. So it'll save it there. And then you come to animation and we'll go from 0 to 240 because it's going to 280. It doesn't need to go to 280. And that's pretty much it. I can hit capture movie and it'll just save everything. So just do save selected. And there you go. Done. And let's just play this back. So I'll open up like mplay. Yeah, so currently it's a little splotchy because we haven't adjusted the quality at all, but there you go, like it's smooth and straightforward. All right, so this is a slight addition / modification to the basic animation. Okay, so this isn't really important because it doesn't really affect the lesson in any way, but just the original animation I had done is slightly different. So if you'll notice here, the original animation, there's like the edge, these ones are much larger, and there are like smaller waves that follow it. Okay, and that's not happening here. Like if I look at this one and if I turn off the color temporarily, you'll notice like there's no leading edge in this one. So what exactly were the changes that I did in the original that are not here? Okay, so the first thing we'll do is we'll get rid of the channel for now, and I'll also get rid of this color. Okay, so what we're going to start off with is I'll get the P scale before the out. I'll keep it here. Okay, and I'm going to modify the total burn. Okay, so I'm going to take a color node. I'll drop it in here. I'll set this to ramp from attribute total burn. And the change I'm going to make is I want like a leading edge over here. So firstly, I'll just, bring in a point here so it's a little sharper. I'll add a second point there and I'll make it about 2. So what you'll get is like this very sharp line over there. And if I feed this into my P scale, I'll get a slightly different result. So I'll do this to cd.r. So if I look at my copy to point, what you're going to get is this, see. So you'll get like this nice little edge over here. What we do is we feed this directly into our Spring chop. Okay, so I'm going to come into my chop network, and in the geometry, we'll change it to P scale. That's why the P scale has to be before the out. Okay. So P scale and P scale. And I'm going to modify the spring a little bit. I'm going to lower the mass and lower the damping and lower the spring constant as well. Okay, and then in the channel, this will also be P scale. And then put this after the out. So let it calculate through. And what you'll get now is a completely different result. See, so you're getting like this nice little wave that runs behind it. So if you want it slightly lesser, what I can do is I can come into the color. I can take this guy, make it around 1.5. So it will just recalculate. So this should give me a, yeah, but you're still getting those nice little waves, but it's not as, as extreme that it was. So you're getting like these nice little ripples that follow it, which you were not getting before. Okay. And now all we need to do is just adjust the color again. So I'm going to come in here and take another color node. And this we'll set it to P scale. And just do the same thing. So black and black and white in the middle. There we go. So now you'll be able to see the ripples properly. See, so you get like these nice little ripples that follow behind it. Okay. This is going to be used later on for coloring. So it's not going to remain black and white, but it'll work as a mask. So it's easier for me to control it over there. So I'm just going to lower let's increase the spring constant, let's increase the damping. Yeah, and we'll lower the mass. I'll just turn off the color temporarily so we can see it. And let's do one final thing. I'm going to take the color here. Let's keep it to 2. It looks better. Perfect. So now if we bring back the color and play this, okay, that's much better. Okay, so now let's just re-export this. So I'll just save this file and I'll say save to disk. And then what I can do is I can come back to Unreal and I can right click on the toy and just say re-import. and everything else is the same. Yeah, we just need to make these changes again. So 100 and minus 100 and 100 and 90. And yeah, the path is the same. So just click import. It'll just re-import everything. So as I said, it's not important to the lesson overall, but it just, I was looking at my original result and going like, this looks different. So I just wanted to sort of repair that. Yeah, and so if you play it now, see, you'll get a much better result. See, so it's like nice and wavy, what it wasn't doing before. Okay, so that's pretty much it. So the next lesson, as I said, we'll start working on the materials.